Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and everyone in between. I am your host, Masker. Urbanspook has been one of the most controversial figures in recent times. His series, The Painter, has received a lot of criticisms about its episodes and some of the plot points in it. So I'm gonna mainly talk about his series only and not the creator himself, since this is not a Twitter slop drama. So I'm gonna be focusing entirely on the episode since the series has ended with its final episode. I feel like I'm gonna need to finish the series and actually judge it since it has ended. So yeah, let's get into it.
We start the first episode. I'm joking. We're not gonna be talking about the entire series. I'm mainly gonna be talking about the final episode because most people definitely didn't watch the final one. The final episode of the series is the best one in the entire series. It actually features footage, shocking. Last time I checked, the entire series was just images and text on them. The audio design is insane. The paintings are actually good. All the paintings in the series are good to be honest, but these ones are interesting since they don't actually have any gore in them. It's just weird, which is definitely something that Urban Spook intended. The highs of the episode is in its finale, when the police officer receives a message about the painters being in a house, so he rushes in to stop the painters, and what he sees is the mother being dead, and he walks through the hallway, and when he finally enters the room, we actually see the two painters. Yes, there are actually two if you following the series. And then in the first ever, a character in an analog horror actually does something to hurt the villain, which is actually shooting it based honestly. And this scene is actually insane. There's a lot of screaming in it. There's like an entire minute just screaming and a horrifying and disgusting screams. I honestly don't know how Urban Spook managed to actually do all of this, since his entire series was just images and text, which is really confuses me, because why didn't he do it in the first place? I think mainly about just budget reasons, and the final episode had a better budget. Now, I'm gonna start talking about the great things that the painter brings into its genre, in which is the atmosphere of it. The series, of course, has a lot of problems with its writing, but one of the great things that I actually like about the series is how grounded it is. There aren't any mythical creatures or some out of nowhere monsters. It's just normal with the painter. Of course, his murders are not that realistic to be honest, but the series has its grounded feel, which makes it really realistic in some way. The paintings and the audio design are one of the main things that carry the series for me, to be honest. Because surprisingly, Urban Spook does it all by himself. The paintings are really interesting because some of them, yeah, they do suck since they don't do anything but just show you gore. And the other ones are good. I feel like the best ones that came from the series are the ones that actually don't have any gore in them and instead feel like they are a message or how the painter sees his murders. I feel like this is the better ones that have been made so far. And also, let's talk about the elephant in the room. It's horror. Now, the horror here isn't analog horror, which is confuses me of why he chose the series to have a police footage-esque representation when the series should have been at least just someone who is finding camera tapes and evidence to find him instead of the police, since it wouldn't be analog horror, it would be more like detective story, which is I think would be better since the series doesn't focus on a protagonist or anything. It focuses on its killer, the painter himself, or themselves. The horror in this series isn't actually analog, it's shock horror. If you want me to explain what shock horror is, it's It's just the horror movie type, the slasher type, where the murders are shown to you to show you how brutal the killer is, which is, yeah, it's subjective if you like it or not, but it definitely has its place in the horror community. Some people like it, some people dislike it. In my opinion, I barely enjoy it, to be honest. I like it for some parts, and some parts I feel like it's a snuff film. So it's not for everyone. This is why the series got a lot of criticism. Okay, so let's start with the negatives of the series. The series is the definition of a good idea and very horrible execution. The series suffered from very boring episodes of just images and text with the most, I wouldn't say horrible, I would just say disappointing writing choices in it. So the early episodes are a great definition of why the series failed in the eyes of the crowd, in which the episodes are just murders with no sauce to them. There isn't anything that makes you actually be shocked other than the gore aspect of these concepts, which really makes me feel like, why is it an analog horror in the first place? Like, if the series is more focused on the protagonist, I get it, but there is no specific protagonist. It's mainly focused on the painter himself, which is weird. I would have liked it more to be more detective like just someone who's trying to find who the painter is. I feel like that would have been better and actually made some sense in the lore aspect of it. And also, one of the main core writing decisions are the painter himself. You don't know anything about him. I feel like the series could have been better if they were slowly and slowly showing you the evidence and actual images of the painter. We actually get some, but they're very minor, so they don't help with anything that needs to be explained. So I feel like the series should have kept some of the things in the episodes, but also it would have been better if the painter was slowly being shown to us. Like most people don't know there are two painters in the series because it was shown in the final episodes. I'm not just gonna sit here and complain about the series. I feel like the series didn't have a budget. Yeah, I don't think Urbanspook has a big budget or something. The entire series has built on drawings and music that he made by himself, so I don't think he had a budget to begin with. Also, I'm not making excuses to justify the actions that the series has made. I'm just saying that the series could have been better if the every episode was just like the final episode that was produced.
But knowing Urbanspook and his previous actions, I don't think he will ever try and remake the series again. Now, should you actually watch The Painter? To be honest, it's not everyone's taste. It got a very different type of horror, something that not a lot of people would enjoy. But if you enjoy that old kind, the 90s movie horror type, which is shock horror, I would recommend it, but do not expect anything very lore heavy or major. And if you had to ask me what's my opinion about the series, I would say it's like a very rough 5 out of 10. I really enjoy stories that focus more of the killer side, like what do they think and what do they do. But with the painter, it's a very good idea, but it was horribly executed, as I said earlier. So, thank you for watching till the end, and I just want to say that I wanted to really make this video since the series itself has been something that I kinda enjoyed, so I want to talk about it since there's a lot of talks and controversies about it. So it was really something interesting that I want to cover. Also, make sure to like and subscribe. I was your host, Masker, and if I don't see you next time, good morning, good evening, and goodbye.